Good afternoon. I just want to start off with an update about what's going on outside the walls and on the security situation concerning this building. At about 10:45 this morning, a UN staff member who was entering the building at the 43rd Street gate alerted the UN guards at the gate that there was a man with what appears to be a shotgun on First Avenue. The NYPD was immediately alerted by UN security, and our security services took the decision to lock down the compound. As of now, the situation is currently ongoing just outside the 43rd Street gate, but the building is reopened for pedestrian exit and entrance at 46th Street gate and vehicular entrance at 42nd Street. We will keep you updated with any updates. In other news, this morning, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs launched its annual Global Humanitarian Overview, which is an assessment of global humanitarian needs for next year, how we plan to respond, and what it will cost. Our colleagues say that 274 million people worldwide will need emergency assistance and protection next year. This is a 17% increase compared to this year. The Global Humanitarian Overview estimates that $41 billion will be required to provide relief and protection to 183 million people most in need around the world. The report includes 37 response plans covering 63 countries. As a comparison, so far this year, 107 million people have been reached, and donors have provided more than $17 billion for projects included in the Global Humanitarian Overview. Funding remains less than half of what we and our partner organizations had requested. The full report is on OCHA's internet site. Moving on to Afghanistan and the humanitarian situation there. We are told that aid distributions and needs assessments are continuing across Afghanistan with a focus on food and cash assistance, non-food items, and water, sanitation, and hygiene supplies. Since the 25th of November, along with our partners, we have provided food assistance to approximately 280,000 people in Baghlan, Takhar, Badakhshan, and Parwan provinces. This week, distribution of cash and winter assistance, household items, and water, sanitation, and hygiene supplies were also completed for an estimated 20,000 people in Kabul, Parwan, and Ghor provinces. In the coming days, some 15,000 people in Baghlan, Kunduz, Badakhshan, and Balkh provinces will also receive humanitarian assistance. The Afghanistan Flash Appeal, which identified prioritized needs between September and December of this year, requires $606 million, and it's 113% funded. The Afghan humanitarian response, which was launched at the beginning of 2021, requires $869 million and is 84% funded. Our humanitarian colleagues note that the two appeals complement one another, identifying 18.4 million people in need and targeting 17.7 million, a goal that is expected to be achieved by the end of the year. As part of the 2022 Global Humanitarian Overview launched today, Afghanistan is one of the largest emergencies in the world. In next year, 24.4 million people are estimated that will need humanitarian assistance. Of these, humanitarian partners have planned to reach 22.1 million, with urgent humanitarian support requiring $4.4 billion. Quick note on Libya, where the Special Envoy for Libya, Jan Kubish, yesterday met with the chairman of the Libya High National Election Commission, Dr. Imad al-Sayeh, in Tripoli. The Special Envoy was briefed about the progress made so far by the Electoral Commission in the preparation of holding parliamentary and presidential elections on December 24th of this year. He praised the High National Election Commission's extraordinary efforts to implement the elections despite technical challenges, a short time frame amid a heavily polarized political climate. He noted that more than 2.4 million voters has collected their cards, demonstrating their yearning for an opportunity to elect their representatives and renew the democratic legitimacy of their institutions. Mr. Kubish echoed the Security Council's call on all stakeholders and candidates to respect their commitments towards the holding of elections on December 24th, and of course to accept the results. The UN mission in the Central African Republic says that on Monday, combatants presumably belonging to the 3R armed group attacked 4 villages Southwest of Bokaranga, in the Umpende prefecture, at least 29 civilians and 2 Central African soldiers were reportedly killed. UN peacekeepers were deployed to the area to help ensure protection of civilians. They're also investigating the incidents. And back here, Christian Richer, the special advisor for the UN investigative team to promote accountability for crimes committed by Daesh, otherwise known as UNITAD, briefed the Security Council for the first time this morning. He said that a potential turning point was being reached in efforts to deliver justice for the victims of Daesh crimes. He discussed progress made by the investigative team in the last 6 months in cooperation with Iraqi authorities. Mr. Richer announced that conclusions had been reached in a key line of investigations into the mass killing of prisoners at Badouche Central Prison. The team also found that these attacks constituted a war crime and crimes against humanity. Okay. We have a COVID-19 update from Mozambique, where authorities 2 days ago confirmed 2 suspected cases of the Omicron variant. The UN team, led by the resident coordinator, Mirta Collard, is increasing its support for the health and socioeconomic fronts, working with authorities in the private sector and civil society. To tackle the wider impact of the pandemic, 13% of the UN team's sustainable development program funding has been redirected to the COVID-19 response. Nearly 3 million people have received services, including food assistance, water, sanitation supplies, emergency cash transfers, and psychosocial support. Mozambique has received over 5 million doses through COVAX, and WHO and UNICEF are supporting the ongoing national election campaign. Our colleagues in Rome at the UN Food and Agriculture Organization today said that food commodity prices in the international market rose for the 4th consecutive month in November. This was led by strong demand for wheat and dairy products. FAO Price Index averaged 134.4 points in the month, the highest level since June of 2011, and 1.2% higher than during October. The index was 27.3% higher at its level than in November of 2020. FAO also published its latest crop prospects and food situation report, which shows that conflicts and drought are worsening food insecurity conditions in several parts of the world, particularly East and West Africa. According to the report, 44 countries, including 33 in Africa and 9 in Asia and 2 in Latin America and the Caribbean, are in need of external food assistance. A quick note I wanted to flag from our colleagues at the UN Population Fund, who launched today the Bodyright campaign in a bid to end rising online violence. The campaign highlights that corporate logos and copyrighted intellectual property are more highly valued and better protected than the images of people's bodies are online. It drives the message that women, girls, racial and ethnic minority, the LGBTQ plus community, and other marginalized groups are undervalued, exploited, and violated online. The heart of the Bodyright movement is a unique B that looks like, instead of the copyright C, it's a B, a symbol which is a new copyright for human bodies. The symbol can be added to any image directly via Instagram stories using stickers or by ongoing Bodyright webpage to use the automatic Bodyright tool or to download the symbol directly. The ambition is for everyone to join the movement, to hold policymakers, companies, and individuals to account. More information on UNFPA. Today is the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery. In his message, the Secretary General stressed that we must never forget the immeasurable suffering of millions of African men, women, and children under the evil of the transatlantic slave trade. The Secretary General says that while some may believe slavery to be a thing of the past, this evil continues to blight our modern world, and that modern slavery often hides in plain sight. He said the pandemic has highlighted the urgency for greater vigilance. And if we had not had the security situation today, you may have noticed that since yesterday, a limited number of guided tours are being offered. There's a limit of 10 people per tour, and they will take place from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. We are following all local COVID-19 health and safety protocols. Visitors must wear a mask throughout the visit. Anyone age 12 and above must show proof of vaccination, and tickets are available online for now. Also, good news. The UN bookshop and the UN stamp counter are now open for all of us from 11 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I just want to say a big online hello to the participants of the 2021 UN Virtual Training Program for Palestinian Journalists who are listening in. And I don't have, if my colleagues could bring in my phone so I can monitor the chat, that would be great. In the meantime, Mr. Bays.
I have two questions, but I'm reluctantly going to ask one about the security situation, just to, make sure it's not a story.
Yeah,
is there no evidence of any criminal, or is there any evidence of any criminal or terrorist motive?
At this point, we have no such evidence.
Certainly, looking through, as I have done, a viewfinder at close up, it's a man with a shotgun against. It sounds like a tragic, sad story. That's not even a local news story.
That's the perception that we have, but I cannot stress enough that the NYPD is on the ground. They are trying to talk to the man. They're diffusing the situation, but we're not aware of any sort of political or other.
No, I just wanted to dismiss it as a story.
No, I
Okay.
appreciate
Understood.
that.
So, two proper questions. First, in this room yesterday, the new president of the Security Council, the ambassador of Niger, made some strong comments about Libya. Clearly important because he's a member of the Security Council, also important because Niger is a neighbouring country to Libya. I'll quote, "I can tell you the conditions for free, credible, democratic, consensual elections have not for the moment been met. The situation is not mature enough to allow this type of election." And I'm told he's not the only member of the Security Council that shares concerns about the elections, actually, rather than being, as Mr. Kubish said, this wonderful moment, that it could be a moment that causes further destabilization. Does the Secretary-General share that worry?
I think, listen, I think as the Secretary-General himself said yesterday, he is neither a witch nor a seer and cannot predict what is going on.
But lots of people are predicting.
No,
This could
I
be very
understand.
bad
That's
news.
not his. It's his. That is not the role that he will take. He is, of course. I mean, I think, as we've been reporting publicly, there are a lot of issues to be concerned about. But this is a Libyan-owned process. There are agreements that the Libyan political leadership have agreed to. There is a system in place. And we very much hope that these elections, by the election time, there will be let me start that again. That by December 24th, there will be the conditions in which the Libyan people can freely express themselves, as frankly as they've been waiting to do for quite some time.
Question on Yemen. More than 60 civil society organizations have come together. As you know, the group of eminent experts was not renewed in Geneva by the Human Rights Council to say there should be a new mechanism, and that the General Assembly is the forum for that. Now, I entirely understand that you're going to say that's a matter for member states, but what does the Secretary-General share these organizations' desire that a new accountability mechanism is set up for Yemen?
We hope that wherever in the world there may have been crimes against humanity, war crimes, or just horrendous attacks on civilians, where civilians have been on the forefront and have been stuck in the middle of what is more than, multiple sides attacking them. We hope that there will be accountability, and we hope that member states will agree on some format for that accountability.
And places like that include Yemen.
We've been very clear on what's going on in Yemen. Okay. Yes, Edie, sorry.
That's all right, Steph. Just a follow-up. Well, let me ask first on Ethiopia. Is there any update on what's happening there in terms of access, UN convoys getting in?
No, I think nothing more than what the Secretary General shared with you yesterday. But obviously, we're in constant touch with our colleagues, and as soon as as we feel there is information to share of goods having arrived safely, we will do so as quickly as
I
possible.
was asking because he said that another convoy was moving.
Exactly, and I have nothing more to add than that.
And a second question, there was supposed to be a demonstration actually late this morning by people wanting to try to get the Secretary General to ensure that the United Nations International School in Queens remains open. Do you have any comment on that?
I think any questions, I mean, I don't know if there was anything going on today besides what is actually going on, but any questions having to do with the running of the school should be addressed to the school and the decisions they make.
But this was a demonstration specifically
we're
targeted
always,
at the Secretary General.
we are always supporting of people expressing their right to demonstrate freely and peacefully, but I can tell you that anything having to do with the school should be addressed to the school itself and its leadership. Madame.
Monsieur, going back to Libya, the president of the Security Council said yesterday that one of the big problems right now is the foreign fighters being like absolutely there, a lot of them, and especially because their country don't really want them. So how do you expect the election go well with all those foreign fighters there?
We very much hope that we will see all non-national, all foreign fighters leave. I mean, no one is saying that it's not without its challenges. I mean, our eyes are wide open, but we have to do whatever we can to support the Libyan people trying to express themselves. Yes, Stefano.
Yes, follow up on Libya. Just that at least this was my impression, that yesterday the ambassador from Niger was giving us the impression that going ahead with election was going to be dangerous. I mean, the situation was going to get worse, not better. So I understand that all the world is hoping that something is coming out well, but if he's right, then, it's maybe a thought to prevent that the situation gets worse, and maybe the election should be postponed or something?
As I said, we are following the situation. Our eyes are wide open. I think Mr. Kubish gave a very detailed briefing to the council not that long ago. I don't think the situation has changed dramatically since then. He is in Tripoli, and no doubt he will report back to the Security Council.
Yeah, but the fact that he quit doesn't show a lot of confidence.
I would not hinge the situation on just one human being. Mr. Kubish has been extremely active. He was in Geneva. Right now, he's in Tripoli, and as we said earlier, we are deep in the process of finding somebody to succeed him. And he has made it clear that he will not leave the post and abandon the mission. I wanted to, let me just read something which I'd meant to read because I'd been asked a bit more about the situation in Sudan, and I just wanted to say that the agreement of 21st November was an initial step forward towards fully restoring constitutional order and civilian democratic rule. More work needs to be done. Urgent and serious steps by the authorities are needed to reaffirm the commitment of the Constitutional Declaration and pave the way towards free and fair elections, leading to a civilian democratic order. To begin to gain domestic and international acceptance, the authorities must urgently release all those who have been arbitrarily arrested and detained since October 25th. Full accountability for human rights violations, including the killing and injuring of protesters and demonstrators during recent protests, must also be ensured. The path of the transition cannot be decided without the engagement of all partners involved in Sudan's revolution. We support Prime Minister Hamdok's efforts to engage with the forces for freedom and change, resistance committees, and other voices among the Sudanese public. the UN stands by the people of Sudan in this endeavor. Ibtisam, sorry. And then we'll go to Maggie online.
So I have first follow-up on Sudan. To which extent was the UN actually involved or in the picture regarding the agreement between Mr. Hamdouk and the military? And could we also have Mr. Berthes brief us again?
I believe he's on the council schedule for next week. And I think he will be here in person. And I know he was happy to talk to you last time, and I'm sure he will talk to you again. This is not this was not our agreement, but as we've said, we had been in touch with all the parties.
I have another question.
Yeah.
On Palestine and the issue, the statement or the Q&A that Mr. Winsland had, I think the day before yesterday. So I have a follow-up on something he said when he was asked about the normalizations agreement between some Arab states and Israel. He, and I'm paraphrasing here, he kind of said that some of these agreements helped to stop the annexation that the Israeli government was intending to go forward with. So my question is, first, does the Secretary General share this sentiment or this opinion? And this actually contradicts the reports of Mr. Winsland himself, that he constantly, every month, talks about de facto annexation that's happening on the ground. So do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I don't think it contradicts. I think he was speaking about one specific area. I don't think it contradicts his analysis, and frankly, I have nothing to add to what he said.
But do you see that the same areas that were supposed to be annexed that's what's happening on the ground with continuous settlements building? With this is what's happening. So
I'm not debating that. I think he was asked a kind of broad analysis question, which he answered, and I think we've been very clear on reporting on the ongoing settlement building, which we have decried repeatedly and will continue to do so.
Okay, I have another question on something else. The issue of accreditation and the committee, household question. Does the Secretary General get actually copies of the letters of countries that want to have their diplomats or ambassadors accredited here, or does it go directly to the committee? Because we have not been able to get enough information about the subject, and the 2-sentence or 1.5 sentence that we heard yesterday from the Swedish ambassador was not really. It was good to hear something, but
I know that I can't. That's beyond my. That's beyond. That's beyond my my remit. What I can tell you is that the letters that the Credential Committee received were sent to them by the Secretariat, because the Secretary General, in his role, is also, through his staff, it provides the Secretariat for all of the committees of the General Assembly.
so these letters are supposed to be public.
They're not. I mean, some letters are meant to be public. Others are. As far as I know, the committee has. It would be the committee's decision to make it a public document. It is not the Secretariat's decision. Margaret Bashir, if you're still here.
I'm still here. I'm glad you're all safe and sound inside, Steph. Regarding the individual outside and the situation outside, there's been a lot of videos, so I'm sure you've been able to see who the person is. Is this someone that's known to the UN as a staff or contractor?
No, I mean, I was down there a couple of times talking to our security chiefs, asking exactly the same question. We have absolutely zero indication that this person is a staff member or a former staff member in any way linked to the UN. That's the information. That's what I can tell you right now, because that was a question that was on my mind as well. Okay.
I could also ask a follow-up to yesterday's
Yeah.
Press conference with
Yeah.
the Secretary General and the African Union chairperson. There was a lot of discussion about Omicron and the travel restrictions and such. And I was just wondering if Secretary General has decided to get his booster, or if he's done it already, what his thinking is on this, because he has many thoughts on the subject.
He does have many thoughts on the subject, I think, as you heard yesterday. He got his booster on Friday, and I can tell you that this has been a very difficult decision for him. There was a lot of back and forth within his own mind as to whether or not he should get it. I spoke to him at length about it this morning. As you know, he's 72. He has some underlying conditions related to blood pressure. So, according to the guidelines, he's been qualified for some time. He's also fully aware of the symbolism of the Secretary General getting a third shot while the global vaccine situation is as horrendous as it is, and as he himself and Moussa Faki were talking about yesterday. And it's clearly is symbolic in the sense that taking a shot doesn't take a shot away from someone else. Before the General Assembly, he was advised by his doctors and his family, and his daughter is in fact a doctor and has been pushing him to get the booster. He decided not to do it in the GA, trusting the measures we put in place here, and trusting the measures put in place by the city of New York. Again, before Glasgow, his family and his doctors put a lot of pressure on him to do it. Again, he decided not to. And he went to Glasgow and Rome, as you recall, for the G20. He felt that the measures were safe enough. He did return on Thursday, early Thursday morning, from his first real field visit since the COVID outbreak. He visited many remote areas. He also, in Bogota, he was in crowded markets and very crowded places with a lot of people. And so, given the fact that he will also be doing more field visits in the weeks ahead, he decided that given his age and given his function and his responsibilities as Secretary General, he decided getting the booster would be the responsible thing to do. But again, literally, he called me up in his office twice today to talk about this, and I could tell you that he really he agonized over making that decision. James.
Can I just
Sorry.
ask you one
Yeah.
more? But he is such a public-facing person, and as you detail his itinerary, his schedules lately, wouldn't he feel in a way he had an obligation to get it so that he himself didn't become some sort of a spreader, and particularly since he also always advocates about vaccination?
Well, I think
available.
I think in his mind there were two sides, right? There was the side that you just said about being a public figure, being the head of the UN, taking all the possible precautions. And I would add that he's been taking since the beginning a huge amount of personal precautions. Everybody around him is vaccinated, it's masked. We're all very, very careful with him, and he's very careful with himself. But there was also the symbolism of him getting a third shot when many people have not had the first one. And this was something that he churned over in his mind for a long, long time, I can assure you. James, and then Edie.
Back to the press conference yesterday of the President of the General Assembly. I know you never talk about staffing issues, but he did. He told us that...
Security Council or General Assembly?
Sorry, Security Council, President, I'm so sorry. He told us that Nicholas Kay had been proposed by the Secretariat to replace Mr. Kubish. We're now told, and reliable sources, that the Russians have blocked Mr. Kay's candidature. Given Mr. Kubish offered to stay on for the election. Is that something the Secretary General is currently considering beyond the 10th of December? I also hear reports that possibly Stephanie Williams might be asked to come back in a temporary capacity.
As you know, trying to, especially recently, trying to get a person confirmed, which I know is not the right word, by the Security Council, it can often seem like we would say in French, le parcours du combattant. It's kind of like, it's challenging. I don't know where the English expression would be. But, so we're in discussions with the Council. The Secretary General wants to make sure that we have the leadership in place by December 24th. So, of course, options, names, and things are being discussed, which I want.
And Mr. Kubish's offer to stay on, which he made in the Security
exactly.
Council chamber, is one option, is it?
We're looking at all sorts of different options. Edie.
Maybe I missed something, but has the Secretary General actually had his booster vaccination today?
No, Friday. That's what I was just talking to Maggie about.
It was Friday.
It was Friday. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
Thank
I mean,
you.
I spoke for a long time, but the first graph in an AP story would be he got it on Friday. There are a lot of further graphs to that story. All right. Unless there's a question. Pam, do you have a question? Pam Falk?
Yes, thanks, Steph. You said it at the beginning, but we didn't get an official email. The lockdown's been lifted, correct?
What has happened is, I mean, this was as of, I was on time today, so as of 30 minutes ago, the police activity was continuing in front of the UN. The security service, our security services in discussions with NYPD have reopened the 46th Street entrance for anyone in the building, which we feel is safe to use, and for vehicles, the entrance on 42nd and the FDR Drive.
And do you not have the information that some have gotten from the NYPD that the suspect has been taken into custody?
Again, I have the information. I don't have an earpiece, so I have the information that was given to me about 30 minutes ago. And so I will go back to my desk and see if there's anything new, and we'll share that with you. And in the go ahead.
I'm told that it may still be outside, so you don't have any update.
And again, information as to what happens outside the gates should be asked to the New York City Police Department. I can only speak to what's happening within this kingdom. Yeah?
Thank you. Within the kingdom, I just have a follow-up.
Yeah.
You announced, your office announced UN tours are open. Can you elaborate on how much that will be? Will it be all the third graders?
I don't know if every third grader in New York will come, but it will be a limited presence. There'll be 10 people per tour. The tours will take place from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. People will have to abide by all the COVID health requirements that are in place in New York City. If you're going to Broadway or concert or whatever else you want to do in your spare time, tickets are only available online, and also the bookshop, the gift shop, and the post office are reopened in the basement. On that postal note, I will hand it over to Paulina.